We went with our seventh-string quarterback, and we lost by 1.5 points, and we actually picked up a congressional seat. More deficit has accumulated under Donald Trump than the other president in American history. Well, we got to get that $100 million for condoms for Hamas, because that's where all the savings are.
Let's watch a few clips where Democratic strategist James Carville is taking it to propagandist Sean Hannity, so be sure to like this video. It helps us out a ton. Subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get right into it and be back with the context.
Now your party is against tens of billions spent abroad for Green New Deal, DEI, woke agenda, and transgenderism. What happened?
Well, we got to get that $100 million for condoms for Hamas, because that's where all the savings are. I haven't seen.
Cute answer. There's tens and hundreds of billions.
American all right, you went for 10 minutes.
All right,
okay.
Go ahead.
If he can find the money, great. Give everybody $1,000. But I'll tell you this: more deficit has accumulated under Donald Trump than the other president in American history. But I'm glad that you're on the fiscal responsibility bandwagon. I'm glad you're on the bandwagon of Bill Clinton being able to balance the budget and bring unbelievable prosperity to America. But, you're reading these polls, and I'm reading the polls saying the Democrats are 13 points up in the congressional generic, that Donald Trump has the lowest approval rating of any president at this point in his presidency in American history.
All great points made here, so let's touch on each. The idea that Republicans are the fiscally responsible party is a complete lie. Democrats are the only ones to have balanced the budget anytime recently. They use that branding to try and justify their Medicaid and Social Security cuts that they want to take from your grandparents. Historically, more debt has been added by Republican presidents. They extend the deficit more per term on average. 10 of 11 of the recessions have been caused by Republican presidents. As Carville pointed out here, Trump added more to the debt than any president has in one term ever. 25% of our total debt was added just by Trump. So the idea that Trump is the fiscally responsible guy who's going to do this it's dumb. What they're doing is corruption, not cutting waste. And in the debt creation on a 10-year window, meaning the further future borrowing needs created from policies during their term, Trump created almost double that of Biden and more than almost any, again, one-term president in history. Republicans aren't fiscally responsible in any way. They just want you to believe that that's why they're trying to cut these crucial social programs like food stamps, Medicaid, and WIC, literally robbing the poor to give to the rich. It's socialism for the rich. The real reason is to do just that, to soften the debt that their rich guy tax cuts are inevitably going to create.
You said you want to talk about the polls you believed. Your polls told you Kamala Harris is going to be president, didn't they? You were predicting she's going to win. What happened?
The polls are tied.
Because my pollsters got it right.
So
they predicted Donald Trump would win.
So let me back up. We went with our seventh-string quarterback, and we lost by 1.5 points, and we actually picked up a congressional seat. So if you're asking me, did I think that she was going to win, and she didn't win? Yes, all the polling showed it even. It turned out to be a 1.5-point race. And you lost seats. But if you have, and I'm telling the Democrats, just sit there, play possum, let them go, let them go, let them go. Poll numbers are declining. The collapse is already underway. Let's see when they put the Medicaid budget, when they put the $4.5 trillion of tax cuts to wealthy people.
First off, I don't know how MAGA could ever try to sell this election as the destruction of liberal ideology. I mean, the first things first, we won 2018, we won 2020, we won 2022, 2023 special elections. And then with a historically unprecedented type of campaign, we narrowly lost in 2024. But in none of the elections you lost was it a destruction of MAGA. None of it makes sense. And anyone who saw an election map knew that in Congress, it was always going to be shaky for Democrats. Just like if you look in 2026, Democrats are virtually guaranteed the House. This is the nature of Congress. It just depends on what seats are up for what year. But the presidency, we ran a candidate on historically short time, 100 days, without a typical primary process to feel out where the party is. And we lost by 1.5%, like 100,000 votes in 3 states really is what decided the election, with massive voter suppression going on. That kind of paints Trump as a weak candidate. It shows how weak the mandate he has is, matched with the first month agenda netting him as historically low in favorability already, right? So it would show that maybe if like a typical campaign was ran by the Democrats, almost anyone probably could have beat Trump. And most of America already is rejecting Trump's agenda. It was just that in the options given, he's the one that made more sense. And it will absolutely get worse when he starts taking people's benefits. We already see Republicans in deep red states at their town halls getting booed and called out, MAGA voters crying online because their job, they got fired from their federal job they've had for years, or their benefits have been taken from the freeze. It's the normal cycle that happens as Republicans' policies are actually hugely unpopular. So once the smoke and mirrors is gone of how they sold them on the campaign trail, their actual actions practically guarantee a Democratic victory. We just have to run the right candidate.
Bill Clinton, and I'll give him credit where credit's due. I mean, and I give as much credit to Newt Gingrich, to be honest, and the fact that he had such a bad first midterm, and the era of big government is over, end of welfare as we know it, and they balanced the budget, the two of them together. They work together. I see your party screaming and yelling and acting like lunatics, and you're smarter than that because that's not you. And you're kind of spinning a little on me because you got your ass kicked in this election and everyone thought you were all going to win.
I lost a point. Everything else by a point and a half. But all you have to do, you can go to Real Clear Politics. It's actually a conservative-leaning site, and they run all the poll averages. You can look them up. It's right there. This is not some kind of secret thing. If you go back and you look at, polling was actually very accurate in the 2024 election. I mean, it was a certain infinite stuff that you can get wrong.
Let's just dispel this really quick, because Democrats are always the fiscally responsible ones, especially in comparison. And then when you point out this historically, Republicans, MAGA now just wants to be like, well, they used to be, but now it's different. But then if you like, Biden was more fiscally responsible than Trump, Obama more fiscally responsible than Bush. So it's like, what are we doing? And then Clinton also, by the way, balanced the budget while expanding social programs. He wasn't like doing the conservative thing, and that's why he balanced the budget. And now Democrats are so different. He wasn't doing what Republicans want. It's Democratic policies that lead to these things. It's the opposite of what MAGA is pushing for. They want to cut social program spending just to not even balance the budget, as they're cutting government revenue by even more through their costlier rich guy tax cuts. Clinton expanded Medicare during his presidency, expanded Medicaid during his presidency. He increased funding for federal education, public school by billions of dollars. He strengthened Social Security. He created initiatives like the CRA and the TANF for low-income families to help reduce poverty, increased funding in Head Start and CHIP, that's children's health care, for a school breakfast program for kids who were impoverished. Clinton balanced the budget not by cutting social programs, but by increasing taxes on the top earners. He did so from 31% to 39.6%. He incentivized work through middle-class employment targeted tax cuts, like the earned income tax credit with income caps, so the highest earners couldn't get it. This is also kind of what Kamala was pushing, by the way, reducing the defense budget and military spending, and then incentivizing growth in the economy, which is typically spurred when we see higher tax rates, as this drives more investment rather than things that just enrich in the top 10%, and through the creation of manufacturing jobs, all of which Republicans want you to believe doesn't work, when the reality is these policies of increasing tax burdens on the rich, expanding social programs to raise the floor of wealth in this country, and incentivizing work through tax cuts for the middle class that the wealthiest members of society can't take advantage of, are the opposite of the Republicans' agenda and are the only thing historically that have proven to work. Republican tax cuts have never trickled down, typically lead to recessions, and have always created massive debt. They've never gotten us closer to balanced budgets. Instead, Republicans want you to believe that fiscal responsibility is taking away your grandparents' healthcare and Social Security, all while just adding more debt than Democrats anyway, who protect those things for your grandparents, because the Republicans want to take those things away so they can force through rich guy tax cuts that have caused 10 of our 11 recessions. Again, Republicans want to do socialism for the rich and free market capitalism for the poor, while also being a reverse Robin Hood, where at any chance they can, they're going to take money from the poorest members of society. They're going to take your Medicaid. They're going to take your food stamps. They're going to take your CHIP, your children's health care, your Medicare benefits, whatever it might be. And then they're going to give them to the billionaires and the corporate owners on the promise that these people drive investment. They create jobs. They're the smartest members of society, the most productive. But time and time again, we see that when we give these people these massive tax cuts, when we enrich them even more, when we allow them to get even more profits from the workers that they're already squeezing dry of this money, They don't use it to incentivize or they don't use it to create, to do innovation. They don't do it to create more jobs. They just throw it back in their pockets. They spend it on stocks. They spend it on other things. They keep it hoarded. They buy properties and then hoard those and then sell them at 10x the property value, whatever it might be, to enrich themselves more, not the economy. This is why historically we see more economic growth when taxes are higher, because that drives business investments, which actually trickles down to the workers. That creates more growth, because it turns out raising the ceiling doesn't really create more economic growth, because by virtue of raising the ceiling, you're allowing the floor to bottom out. But by raising the floor, it doesn't affect the ceiling much, but you're creating a higher floor for everyone, which creates a higher middle for everyone, which creates more opportunity to get to the top. Republicans, however, want you to look at the symptoms, not the root causes. They don't understand economics, they don't understand culture, they don't understand society, and that's why they probably shouldn't exist in our political sphere. But don't be too hopeless, because in 2026, the map looks good. We can take back the House. That's almost guaranteed. The Senate, yeah. But we take back the House. We then control the funding. We control government spending, keeping it open. And obviously, we can reject anything Trump wants to do. Until then, fight, fight, fight. Don't sit back and wait for this to happen. We are in a constitutional crisis. We need to act like it and not sit on our hands. And any Democrat who is sitting on their hands should be primaried. Case closed.